This conference will now be recorded.
So in the last class, we have seen about your tree ALV. We have seen about your the docking container. What is meant by docking container? So we won't be creating that. We won't be creating the container. We will ask SAP standard class for that. So CL underscore GUI underscore docking underscore container is a class. In that, we will be using that class in our screen to dock the container from which side, whether you want to get from left side or whether you want to get from the right side. So that means we are asking SAP to use the standard containers instead of creating our custom containers. That's called as your docking container. Now the next thing we have seen about is your friend class. So what is meant by friend class? So in a class, you can't able to, by default, you can't able to access the private attributes or your private methods. So the private variables, the methods variables, you can't able to access. If I want to access the private attributes or the private methods of that class, then we have to define that class as your friend class. Then you have to define that class as your friend class. So in the child class where you are going to call your parent class. So in that parent class, you have to refer this as your child class. So then you can able to access your private attributes. So this we have already seen this. So then we have to maintain this as. So once we can maintain, so to do this, go to your superclass under the friends tab, provide your child class and click on enter and save and activate. Once we done this, so child class can able to access the private variables slash the private methods of the superclass. So this is called as a friend class. So this example we already seen in your last class. So this is what we have discussed in your last class. Now in today's class, we are going to see the most important thing is a singleton class. A singleton class. So what is meant by this singleton class? So a class which where we can create only one instance. We have to create only one instance. So that is called as your singleton class. So a class where you can create only one instance. So now, right now, for every class, we can create n number of instances. But I want to restrict that instance to single instance. I want to restrict that to my single instance. Then we will go ahead and create this as your singleton class. Then we'll go ahead and create this as my singleton class. Now, how to achieve this singleton class? So the singleton class, see this, to achieve the singleton class, the class must be created as private. The class must be created as your private. The class has to be created it as private, and in this we will create public static constructor which we will refer to the same class, which again we will refer to your same class. Public in this we are going to create a public constructor. This will help to restrict the further creation of your objects. So when you create this, it won't create you for the further creation of your objects. How to define a singleton class? So a class is said to be a singleton class if you have only one single instance. Can only create single instance. So the visibility of the class must be your private. Now if I go here, So now I'm going to SE38. So now I'm going to say ZR 9 AM singleton class, and I'll just click on create. So I'm going to take this as example for singleton class. So now I'm going to take this as executable program, click on save and activate. Now, what you will be defining, so you will go ahead and define a class. So I'm going to say this as no standard page heading. So I'll go ahead and define a class. Class LCL underscore local, LCL underscore your local, and definition create private. So I'm going to create this class as your private class, and then class. So by default, you will be creating it as public, but if you want, you can change over here it as your private or protected, anything. So by default, it will be public. By default, it will be public, but I'm going to create this as my private class. Now here, I will go ahead and create class LCL implementation and end class and end class. So this is the first step. So I need to go ahead and create a private attribute. So in this, you will be having different sessions. Again, your public session, private session, sorry, protected session, and your private session. Protected session as well as your private session. In this, first of all, go ahead and create a variable. Go ahead and create a variable. So I'm just going and creating a variable of this type. And I will create a static variable class hyphen data. So gr underscore local type reference to the same class. I'm going to refer to my same class. So type reference to my same class, and I'm going to say this as my read only. And this is what we have to do. Declare a public attribute. Declare a public attribute, so with referencing to the same class, public attribute. So, and then I'm going to create this public attribute. Now you need to create a public static method. Public static method which will have a returning parameter. Which will have a returning parameter. So I'm going to need to create two methods. One is my class methods, and I'm going to create this as constructor. So public class method, and I'm going to say this as class constructor. So which is your static, and then I need to go ahead and create a method which will have a returning parameter, which will have a returning parameter, returning value as gv underscore. One second. So you need to go ahead and do this. So now in this, I will come here. I'll go ahead and create this one. I'll go ahead and create my method. In this method, I'm going to create my object of my singleton. So if I have to go ahead and create, so now this constructor, how many times it will call? So only one time it will get called. So in this, I will go ahead and create my I'll go ahead and create my method. I'll go ahead and create my method. So now once you have done this, just do your pretty printer. Let's click on check. sorry, LO underscore LOCL. So click on your check GR. Yeah. So I'm just going to do this. Click on your check, no issues, and let's activate my code. Now what I will do, I will go ahead and create a class definition. So now data geo underscore LOCL is equal to new underscore LCL underscore your LOCL. New underscore LCL underscore your LOCL. Now what I will do, LR LC geo underscore LOCL, I'm going to get my set name. Set name. So now I will be having my values. Now click on check. It will go ahead and say this as statement not accessible. Why this is not able to access? So now you are trying to accessing a private variable. You are trying to access a private attribute. You will be getting this thing. So you will be getting this error. So when you do this statement not accessible, that's fine. Or else try with this the old style. So data geo underscore LOCL type reference to LCL underscore LOCL, then create object, geo underscore LOCL. LOCL. So now when I click on this check, you will again get the same thing. You can't create an instance of the class outside your class. So this instance, you can't able to create this. This instance, you can't able to create this. Now, one second, guys. One second. It must be access. So it must be access over here, but it's here, it's not accessing. So this is the issue it's getting. It must be access over here. So, but why it's not accessing, I need to just check this. So now this is what. Now see here, in this I'm going to create my this thing. Now when this class is gets called, when this class gets called, now how many times it will create an object? It will just go ahead and create a one time. So that's why I have given this as my static constructor. That's why I have given this as my static constructor to create an object only for one time. To create an object for only for one time, I'm going to create this as my static constructor. So static constructor is a global which will only execute one time. How many instances you have created? How many instances you have created? It will just go ahead and call it for one time. That is called as your static. So this way you can able to achieve a singleton class, but here it is not. I'm not able to access this. I need to go ahead and see what is the issue over here, but I'll come back to this on this. Okay, so now, so this is called as your class constructor. So here the advantages is we can't able to access the singleton class more than one time. So as we are going to create this object, so inside your class, so can we call this object for more than one time? No, we can't able to create this for more than your one time. So with the use of singleton class, the testability will increase. The testability as it is, the performance will also get increased. Majorly where we are going to use this in singleton class. So they can ask you in the interview, so have you can you tell me a real-time example? Can you tell me a real-time example where we achieve the singleton class, where we achieve the singleton class? So in case of your enhancements, in case of the enhancements, we can go ahead and achieve your singleton class. In case of enhancements, we can go ahead and achieve your singleton class, because we don't know how many times that enhancement is going to call. So to avoid calling multiple times, we will create a singleton class. We will write the code in the singleton class. So this is what you will be doing in case of your enhancements. This is what you have to do it. So this is a most interview question. So can you tell me an example where you have used your singleton class? You have to tell this example in case of my enhancements, because we can have we don't know how many times the enhancement is going to call. So in order to avoid calling multiple times the same code, or in order to avoid executing the same code for multiple times, then we will go ahead and create this as my singleton class. So I will go ahead and create a singleton class, and I will go ahead and write the logic in my singleton class, and I will call this in my enhancement. I'll call this in my enhancement, so that it won't able to call for multiple times. Yeah, go ahead. Someone is asking questions. Okay. So this is called as your singleton class. So this is the most important interview question. These are mainly used in your enhancements. Enhancements are nothing but your implicit and your implicit enhancements and explicit enhancement. But usually no one used to write the code in singleton class. People will always write normally. But if you go ahead and write down in a singleton class, it will go ahead and give you a better performance. This is called as a singleton class. Now the next and the last thing we are going to see is your wide casting and narrow casting. So the last thing of your classes we are going to see is your wide casting and your narrow casting. Before we go ahead with this topic, let's see the difference between the wide casting and narrow casting. Basically, these two are related to the inheritance. Your inheritance concept. That's the subject which inherits the superclass, the subclass which inherits the subclass which inherits a superclass will have more components than your superclass. So now that means if I go inside this, so now if I go to SE24, now I will be having my child class and superclass. In my child class, I will be getting all my superclass attributes. Along with that, I can go ahead and add more and more components. If I go to my superclass, so let me go ahead and add one attribute. As I added it as private, but let me go ahead and add a attribute, one attribute. So now gv underscore character. So the instance attribute, instance, a public. I'm going to take this as cat20. So instance and public, I'll just go ahead and activate this one. So now if I go ahead and activate, now the same attribute, you can able to see that in your child class. The same attribute, you can go ahead and see that in your child class. Now, along with that, you can add. Now, if I go here to my attribute, see here, along with that, I can go ahead and add multiple things. So this is called as your wide casting. So the subclass which inherits a superclass would have more components than your superclass. It's called as a wide. The parent class, which will have the less number of components compared to the child class, this we will call it as the narrow. The narrow, the wide and your narrow. So now coming to this narrow casting, an instance of subclass is assigned to the reference of your child class. An instance of subclass will be assigned to the reference of your in your superclass is called as narrow casting. When we do this assignment, only the inherited components can be used the reference of your subclass. So if I go here, define a variable in your superclass, define a reference variable in your child class, create an instance reference of your subclass, assign the subclass reference to your child superclass. So this is called as your narrow casting. Now I have given you the example at the down. You can go ahead and see that. Now coming to this wide casting, so an instance of superclass is assigned to the instance of your subclass. So the instance of superclass will be assigned to your subclass. When we do this assignment, all the super components and child components can be used in that instance. So you can use the super component method as well as your child component methods. But in this, only the super component methods can be used. Only the super components methods can be used is called as your narrow casting. Now, it means the copy of instance of subclass to the instance of your superclass. It means the copy of superclass into the instance of your subclass. Only the inherited components of the subclass can be accessed. Only the inheritance as well as specific components to the subclass can be accessed. So assignment operator will be used as equal to, casting operator will be used as question mark and equal to. So LR parent equal to LR child is equal to your LR parent. So this is called as your narrow casting and wide casting. Now I'm going to create this child class in the parent. So I'm going to create this. Now I'll have a class as animal as an animal. So let me copy this one and I'll go ahead and put that in your code. So /n SE38. So I'm going to say ZR9AM casting. So I'll just go ahead and click on create example program on casting. So I'm going to take this as executable program, click on save, send the package as well as your TR. Now what I will do, I'll go here and I'll be providing this one. Now let's do your pretty printer and let's just check this, no issues. No issues at all. So I'm just going to take this as a narrow casting. So now see here. So I have created a class definition, and I'm creating a one more class where I'm inheriting from my parent, where I am inheriting. So superclass inheritance. So now I do have a method called as hungry. So where I'm going to redefine a method. So I'm redefining my method. Along with that, I'm going to add my one more method called as your fasting. One more method called as your fasting. Now in the implementation, I'll go ahead and say animal is hungry, and in the hungry line is the king of animal. It will run fast. Now method fasting, no need to run because line is on fasting today. Now I'll go ahead and create an object. One is reference to your animal and one is reference to your lion. So now, so lion without narrow casting. Now if I go here, I'll just go ahead and create an object for my animal, and if I clip it here, so what is the output you will be coming? Animal is hungry. Animal is hungry. Now I'll go ahead and create this one. And if you come here and if I call this as hungry, line is a king of anim, line is a king of animals, it will run fast. Now if I say execute this one, so the first one you will be getting it as animal is hungry. In the second one, you will be getting this as line is the king of animal, it will run fast. It will run fast. So this is what you are going to get it. It will run fast. Now if I keep it here of your breakpoint, so let me activate this one. Let go ahead and keep a breakpoint. Now if I say execute this one, see here F5. F5, see here first step is animal is hungry. It has been written. Now I'm saying the narrow casting, I'm just going to create a object. Now in my LO animal, I'm just passing the reference of your LO lion. Now if I go to this LO animal, so LO animal is having a reference of LO lion. So now in this hungry, it will go to the lion. Lion is the king of the animal. Now you can only call the redefined methods. So if I say execute this, and now if I go here, LO underscore animal hyphen, you can't able to call your fasting method. You can't able to call your fasting because this fasting method you have created over here. Where is this? Your fasting method you have created over here. You have created over here in this inheritance class. That means in your child class you have created. So that's why you can't able to call your inherited method. Sorry, you can't able to call your sub methods in your parent. So if I want to change, if I want to call my parent method, and I want to get the code from my child class. So this means in a simple thing, I want to execute the logic which is there in the child class from the parent class. So is called as the narrow casting. Is called as the narrow casting. In this case, what I will do, I will I will assign I will assign the child class to the parent class. I'll assign the child class to my parent class. Once you assign this, call the method of parent class. So you have to call only the methods which are there in my parent. Now see here, hungry is a method which is there in my parent class, not it's also there in my child class, where I have redefined this method. So now once you call this, it will go ahead and call this one. It will go ahead and call this one. So that is called as your narrow casting. That is called as your narrow casting. Now, whereas in your wide casting, I'll be saying LO underscore lion, I'll be saying question mark equal to LO underscore animal. LO underscore your animal. So now I'll just go ahead and create this one. I'll just cut this and copy this one, and I'll go here LO underscore lion LION. And I'm going to call my hungry, and then LO underscore lion. I'm going to call my fasting. So that's it. Now do your pretty printer. Let's click on check, and now let's get activate your code. Now if I say activate, if I say here, now see here, LO lion is having a class of casting. See, LCL lion only. So the lion. So the same method is going to be executed. The same method. So the wide casting will automatically gets executed. You don't need to worry about that. Wide casting will automatically executed. You don't need to worry about that. So only for narrow casting, you have to see this. Only for narrow casting, you have to see this. So how you are going to access the code which is there in my subclass from your parent. So just give me 1 second. Okay, so this is called as your wide casting as well as your narrow casting. So one more thing you need to know is your see the same thing. So there are many discussion about the wide casting. So some say up casting while the others say it's down casting. So up casting and down casting, I can remember this with this. Let's take a simple example. So I have the parent class and or parent interface. I have my child class 1 and child class, which is referencing to your parent casting. So narrow casting is the child class methods I want to call in my parent class. Assigning and copying of an instance of subclass to your superclass instance is called as your narrow casting. See, I'm just showing this. So whereas the wide casting is this one, downstream. Assigning and copying of instance of your subclass, superclass to your subclass instance is called as your wide casting. So now this is how the reference is. So how you call to this. So I just given you the example above with this too. Okay. So this is called as your wide casting as well as your narrow casting. Okay. So then there you will be having one more thing called as your persistence class. Your persistence class. So that persistence class, even to be frank, I don't know. So that's the reason I'm not going to tell you. So you have to go ahead and understand. You go ahead and check this one thing called as your persistence class, and you will be having one more thing called as your encapsulation. 1 second, yes. One more thing called as your encapsulation. So encapsulation can also be issued via from your interface. Encapsulations can be issued from interface. That means the, the same method, the same method will have different coding. The same method will have different code in different class, so this is called as your encapsulation, and you can also call this as your polymorphism. So polymorphism and encapsulation. So for encapsulation, so you can just go ahead and read this link in inheritance, encapsulations, and your polymorphism. So in brief, this is called as your encapsulation. Okay, so this is all about your classes. Now the next thing we are going to see is your simplified ALV. The next thing we are going to see is your SALV, simplified ALV view access. ALV view access. So this is the one which I used to do it in my real time. This is the one which I will do it in my real time. So simplified ALV. This is the one which I used to do it in my real time to display the reports. So the class is CL underscore SCL underscore. I have given you the steps for this also. Just hold on for 1 second. So this is the one. So this is the one which I am going to use this. And now I'm going to paste it over here. So simplified ALV. So now this is the one. So in this, I'm going to use a table called as CL underscore SALV underscore your table. So this is the class which I'm going to use. So in this, just pass the internal table. It will give you the reference. It will give you the reference. And at last, you will be having a method called as display. Just use this method, it will create you. Let's go ahead and see one simple example for this on your simplified ALV2. I think we lost the power over there. That's fine. So in simply, I'm going to create this report. Just see this. So I'll be taking this as best. So I'm going to SC38. So ZR 9 AM SALV 1. So I'm just going to click on create SALV example. I'm going to say this as executable program. Click on save. I'm going to save that in my local object. So I'm going to say this as no standard page heading. So now what I will do is start off selection. So now select. So MATNR, MTART, MATKL, and MBRSH, ERNAM from Mara into table at the rate data of GT underscore Mara. Let's take up to 100 rows. Up to 100 rows. Now what I will do, I'll just go ahead and call this. So I'll just go ahead and simply call this one. So I'll just go ahead and simply call this one. See here, I'm just going to call this. So the first one is, so to display the ALV, you have to go ahead and say display the ALV. In this, you have to use CL underscore, what is the class? SALV underscore table. SALV. Why it's not showing? CL underscore SALV underscore table. CL underscore SALV underscore table. So you got this. In this, you need to call a method called as your factory. You need to call a method called as your factory. Now here you have to pass your table name GT underscore Mara, and here you have to create, you have to get this. So I'm going to say data of GO underscore ALV. So here you will be getting your class. If you want, you can provide your container names also. So I don't want this. I'm just going to remove this one. Now after this, so GO underscore ALV, you will be having a method called as display. That's it. Pretty printer, let's get activate your code and let's get execute. Done your report. You don't need to create your field catalog. You don't need to do anything. Everything will be taken care by your SAP, the field catalogs and everything. You just need to pass your internal table and you need to create a data reference. If I go here, let me keep a breakpoint. Let's click on execute. So in this, the factory method. So this is your static. Now, if I say F6, you will be having an ALV, which is referencing to your same class. The same class, it will just refer where you will be having your data. So where you will be having all your data, if you come here, you can find out your data R table, which is your private attribute. So in this private, you can find out your data. You can find out your data. So this data you can find out over here. Now this data is going to be called over here. This data is going to be called over here and everything will be taken care by your SAP. You don't need to worry about this. So this is called as your simplified ALV. But see here, you are getting any sorting conditions? You are getting anything? No, you're not getting any of these details. So these details you have to get it manually. So to do this, the first and the foremost thing is we will say your get functions. How to say your get functions. So in this CL underscore SALV, if I go to this class CL underscore SALV, you will be having your functions. So these functions will enable all your function list. These functions will enable all your function list. Now what I will do, so to enable this, I'll say data geo underscore function is equal to, I'm going to say geo underscore ALV and I'm going to say get underscore functions. Get underscore functions. Now do your pretty printer. Let's check this and let's get activate. Now when I click on execute and when I click on execute, you have not get all your functions. But now here you will be getting your functions when I click on execute. If I say F6, now in this function, you will be getting your class. So what is the method I want to use? Now if I go internally, this one, if I go internally this one, the get functions. So the returning value is of type CL underscore SALV underscore function list. So in that, which function you want, you can set up. Whether you want your aggregation count or whether you want your set export email, set export send, or if you want to set all the basic function has to be comments. So now I will say set all. Now go back here and I'm going to say this as 0 underscore func is equal to set all. Set all, I'm just going to say this as true. So this is your Boolean value ABAP true. Now I'll just say activate this one and now click on execute and say simply click on execute. You will be getting all your functionalities. the email functionality, the export functionalities, everything. So in that way, what type of a functionality you want, you can able to get this with the help of this one. Now I want to restrict the data based upon the length. I want to restrict the data based upon your length. In the same thing you will be having, you need to go ahead and create, you need to go ahead and get your columns, and then you need to go ahead and say optimize. If I go back, so now I'm going to say to optimize my column, to optimize the column, to optimize the column. So I'm going to say data geo underscore column is equal to geo underscore alv, and I'm going to say get underscore columns. So now in this, I'm going to say zero column hyphen set. What is the one? What is the method? I need to go ahead and use. I'm going to say set optimize. Set underscore optimize. So I'm going to say this as above true. Now if I say do your pretty printer, let's get activate your code. So check this. Now let's get activate your code. Now let's click on execute. Now let's say execute and execute. See here, the column has been optimized. If I go back right now, and if I remove this optimization for now, let's click on activate for this. And now let's click on execute. And if I say remove the breakpoint and remove the breakpoint, and let's click on execute. See, this column I need to optimize. This column I need to optimize. This column also I need to optimize. Now in that cases, I'll just go ahead and optimize this. So now if I say activate, now if I say click on execute, see here, this has been optimized by SAP automatically. This is your set optimized. Like this, you can have, if I want to change the column name, if I want to enable your hotspot, if I want to enable my hotspot, if I want to enable all my functions. So here I have enabled my default. If I want to enable all my functions, you can go ahead and enable all your functions. Now, if I want to provide my header, if I want to provide my header, so like this you will be having, if I want to assign my aggregations, if I want to get my aggregations and everything, so you can just do this. So same thing for all your hotspot and everything I have created for everything. So let me copy this and let me try to paste it over here. So now geo underscore slash OSC38. So GR9AM SALV2. Now I'll just go ahead and create this ALV2. I'm just going to take this as executable program. Let's click on save and save this. I'll just go ahead and paste it over here. So it's not pasting. That's fine. So we can check this in tomorrow's session. So this is the generic which I will be using for all my things. Even in my real-time system also, I'll just copy this and I'll paste it. I'll just copy this and I'll paste it, whatever I want. Let's say if they're asking to change the column name. So I'll go ahead and change, I'll just go ahead and copy this one, I'll paste it over there. I'll just put whatever my column values. That's it. So this is the template which you have to go ahead and use it. This is the template. This is the template which you have to go ahead and use this. The same thing even I have used your what I mean to say, your events and everything. So the events and everything I have used. Now I'll go ahead and show you my real-time system in tomorrow's class. So before that, just remind me tonight to bring my official laptop to offline. So what we have done it. So this is the common for all my ALVs. This is common for all my ALVs. Just we have to pass our table. So what we have done, we have created a class and a method for this, and we have just provided our table details. Everything it will go ahead and find out. Everything it will go ahead and find out. That is what I am going to show you in your tomorrow's session. After that, I'll be starting with your module pool programming. After that, I'll be starting with your module pool programming. Okay, so that's all for today. Before I signing off, any other questions? So try to do the container requirement, whatever the container requirement I have given, the splitter container requirement with this CL underscore SLV underscore table. I have done that requirement. You can able to achieve that. Go ahead and find out in Google and come back with me your solution. Come back with me your solution. I have done it. I know it is feasible. I know it is feasible. So go ahead and do it and come back with me your solution. Okay. So that's all for today. Before I signing off, any other questions? Okay. I'll be taking it as no questions and we'll meet you tomorrow and we'll continue our session. So tomorrow I'll be coming to your offline. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.